Welcome to the Interview Etiquette Sprint. In this sprint, we're preparing you for future interviews by teaching you about a wide range of formats and settings with tips on how to manage each one. There are a variety of interview types: phone, group, live coding challenges, take-home assignments, or panels, just to name a few. Regardless of the type, there are a few foundational preparation steps that will leave you prepared for any type. Let's start with an understanding of the different types of interviews. First, phone screens. These are often held with a recruiter and are generally designed to assess fit. The person you're talking to may not have direct insight to the technical work you'd be doing, but they can usually offer perspective on the company culture and product. Phone screens can be tough because you can't use an interviewer's nonverbal cues as feedback. Your interviewer might naturally be a more calm or quiet individual who doesn't provide verbal feedback. Don't assume you did bad on an interview because you didn't receive affirmation during a phone interaction. Hopefully, you recall some of our tips from the professional communication sprint, like that of taking a call in a quiet environment and ensuring the space that you take the call has good reception. In addition to those tips, here are some interview focus tips. Smile. Even though the interviewer can't see you, smiling impacts your vocal intonation. Sit at a desk or table, don't lie in bed or on the couch, maybe even dress professionally. Even if they can't see you, if you feel and act like a composed professional, it will come through in your tone. And a tip from the professional communication sprint that's worth re-emphasizing is embrace silence. If you think you need to, if you need to think for a moment or write a note down, let the interviewer know you need that moment of silence by saying something like, let me think about that for a few seconds. Or, one moment, I'd like to make a note of that. Pauses in conversation will happen, so don't feel rushed to fill in the silent gaps. Next is group interviews. In this type of interview format, you are engaging with other candidates and the employer. These can be challenging because you're interviewing alongside your competition. While recognizing that people are your competition, this format is sometimes used to see how you engage with others, so you will need to be polite, professional, collaborative, and amicable. To prepare for a group interview, know what makes you unique. Attending Lambda School is likely one of those unique experiences. Ask yourself, what is the value add of Lambda School that the other interviewees with bootcamp certificates or college degrees lack? Practice incorporating this into your interview responses. A few tips for group interviews. Watch your airtime, as you should not dominate the conversation. Try to be mindful of answering questions more concisely if you know you talk a lot, and allow others to speak and contribute to the conversation. Share your perspective. You may be asked situational questions or have to do an activity as a team. In either case, it's tempting to observe the group dynamics and remain quiet while listening intently to the ideas of others. If you consider yourself shy and you prefer not to speak up in front of others, you'll need to practice inserting yourself into the conversation. In group interviews, the employer cannot get to know you if you don't speak up and share your thoughts. Show you actively listen. If asked to work together on a task, paraphrase what others are saying. Acknowledge the contributions of others and reference what the group has talked about. Part of a group interview is showing your interpersonal skills, like that of active listening. And lastly, be kind and respectful. Just because you are competing with others for the same job does not mean you need to show up with a cutthroat approach. It's possible you're being interviewed in a group setting because there's more than one role available, making your competition a potential colleague as well. Regardless, everyone in that interview is a peer in your field, so approach the interaction with a networking mindset. When you heard the term group interview, you may have pictured what is a panel interview, where you are being interviewed by several employees. Panel interviews can range in size, encompassing anywhere from 2 to 6 interviewers. This type of interview allows those with a vested interest in the role you're interviewing for to engage and get to know the potential candidate. Panel interviews can be a mix of expertise, with members from other departments like that of sales, marketing, communications, or data. If an individual is on the panel interview, it's safe to assume they or their team interface with the role you're interviewing for. Here's some tips for panel interviews. Make eye contact with everyone, not just the person who asked you the question. Remember, you're talking to everyone, not just one person. Engage the expertise of others. If you're interviewing for a UX position and there's a web developer on your panel, share stories and examples from build weeks or labs about how you worked with other professionals. You won't be expected to be fluent in their language or their technical knowledge, but they'll appreciate hearing you engage with them about their expertise. Prepare questions for everyone. In general, you should always have questions prepared for any interview. We'll get into question preparation later, but when it comes to panel interviews, ask questions that appeal to everyone. Openly take notes and ask for clarification if needed. If you're sitting on a panel with 6 people, it can be challenging to remember everyone's name when they quickly say it as they introduce themselves and their role. So don't be afraid to ask someone to repeat their name and say it out loud to help with your memory recall. You can even jot down each name as they introduce themselves on a piece of paper to help you. It's not unprofessional to use memory recall tactics and notes to assist you in this situation. Lastly, send a group thank you or individual thank you notes. With a panel interview, it can be overwhelming to have to remember to message everyone. So it's permissible to send a collective note to your interviewers expressing an appreciation for their time and insight. If you connected with a particular individual, feel free to send a direct note on top of the group message. Now let's talk challenge interviews. Challenge interviews are really dependent on the field, industry, and company that is interviewing you and what their priority is. If a company has a profile on Glassdoor, the Interviews tab can provide insight into types of challenges you may encounter. The tech stack or technical skills and technology a company emphasizes on a job description are often the same skills that they will test you on. Some general tips for technical challenges: focus on the logic, not arriving at the right answer. While you need to show a basic competence in the skills they're evaluating, the most important thing is to demonstrate how you think. If you get stuck, then talk through how you'd get unstuck. You're going to encounter new challenges at work all the time. Now, you do not need to know everything technically. Mistakes are okay. However, you do need to know how to problem solve and ask for assistance. So show them how you would be on the job. For our last interview type, we have executive interviews. You won't always encounter this format. However, they are common at smaller companies or startups. As you advance in your career and apply for senior roles, you'll experience more of this interview type. Executive interviews have you speaking with senior level employees and top management. This can include roles like Chief Executive Officer, Chief Product Officer, or the President and Vice President. Executives are most concerned with the cost, operations, and impact a role has on their particular division. Be prepared to discuss challenges faced by the company or team that is hiring from a big picture perspective. A couple of tips with an executive: highlight your ability to create impact. Have examples of ways you've been able to improve a product, service, or experience. If asked about how you'll contribute positively to the company, don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions and make sure you understand the issues they're presenting and asking about. Confidently share your ideas. Don't be afraid to offer insight to how you would approach a situation and discuss new things you'd be excited to bring to the role. If you think it's too bold, offer the caveat of, I would love to learn more about X and Y before confidently posing this idea to the team. But based on what I've learned, I think Z could be an effective way to approach the issue because of A, B, C. Last step, remember what you said in previous interviews with that company or what you put on an application. It's not uncommon for the executive to receive a summary of your career materials or notes from other interactions that you've had to that company prior to the interview. Stay sharp so that if the interviewer says, I heard you talk about X idea with Y individual, so that you can jump into the discussion. Let's talk about something that can come up in any interview: nervousness. Interviews are a challenging environment that require practice. With each one, you are going to get better and better. So staying calm in any interview is important. If you know you're visibly nervous and it's causing you to stumble or leave out key details in your answer, try to pause, take a deep breath, then say to your interviewer, I'm really excited about this opportunity, so my nerves are getting a bit ahead of me. Would it be all right if I answered that question again? Most of the time, they'll be gracious about it and encourage you to re-answer or affirm you're doing well and ask that question of you again. Now, these tips and advice are great for any interview, but we'll need a little practice. So see you in class.